In this video, we're going to be talking about how I became a social media marketing consultant. My last video was a vlog, which was a day in the life of a social media... What was it? A day in the life of my freelance business? Yes, a day in the life of my freelance social media business. So this video is going to be a two-part series. The first part is going to be how I got into my current job, and the second one is why. I think it's going to be applicable, especially this one. Especially like part two, why I got into it. For those who are in a specific career, who want, you know, a little bit of a gateway out of it and are looking at different career paths, especially like cabin crew, wink wink. I think it might resonate with you. There was a specific reason why I chose social media and freelance. Okay, I'm excited. Let's do this. End of 2014, like very end of it, we came back to Australia from Dubai after having left Emirates. So was a flight attendant for 7 years, came back to Australia. In my first 12 months, I did a couple of freelance jobs. One of them was freelance photographer. In that time that I was a photographer, I worked with businesses. Two girls who are pretty Instagram famous, over 500,000, almost 1 million followers on Instagram. I also worked with fashion brands who they focused their marketing all online, like Instagram mainly. I remember back then I would speak with some of the business owners that I did photography for, and I would say to them, you know, what are you going to do with these photos? Where are you going to place them? And the most common answer back then was they were going to use it for a menu, they were going to use it for posters or flyers and that kind of thing. And I'd always say to them, why don't you put this content on Instagram? Like, I'll give you all of the photos, I'll process all of the photos and just increase the lifespan of this work that you're already paying for and put it on Instagram. And back then, 2014, people were building brands at the time. It was famous, but nowhere near as famous as it is now in 2018, coming 2019. Like 2018, 2019, like so many more businesses want to be on Instagram. Back then, there were like online boutiques and some creatives who were already in the space, but your average like hairdresser or barbershop or restaurant was not really focusing on that space. So that was advice I was already giving back in 2015. It wasn't super new advice, but it was definitely not the most popular advice. In fact, I almost felt like a bit of a child sort of saying to my professional clients, like, put your content on Instagram. I felt like that. I felt like a little bit small, even though I 100% believed in it. Especially seeing like other fashion brands like grow their businesses and working with Instagram models whose entire brand was focused on being grown through that specific platform. After that, I realized that my freelance photography job, it wasn't for me just yet at the time. Being from Adelaide originally, I didn't have a lot of friends to spend my free time with. So I thought, okay, instead of building a career right now, why don't you just put yourself in a space, in a workspace where you're gonna see the same people every day, all day, every day, 5 days a week. And that way you can start to build relationships, because that's a very important grounding necessity. Like if you're new in the city, like you kind of need a little bit of a support system and just your own friends that you can enjoy your time with. So after photography, I took a little bit of a break, and then I ended up at one of Australia's best international airlines in their head office, and I was there for about a year. In that time, I had done 3 personal development courses. One which was for 3 days, and then again for another 3 days, and then after that for 3 months. And it's really interesting when you start getting to know yourself, you kind of want to do more with what you know about yourself. One of the greatest things that I was born with is like, I really have this innate sense of fearlessness. What I'm really referring to in terms of fearlessness is like fearlessness with new ventures, fearlessness with new adventures and new business ventures, or anything, you know, if I want to try a hobby, I'm not going to hesitate. Like when I first wanted to learn photography, I bought a camera and I learned everything. I'm super self-taught. I'm self-taught from with photography, self-taught with videography, because when I was at university, I didn't really know what I wanted to be. So I took courses which I thought were going to be fun for me, but not necessarily, you know, like the things that were going to set me on my life career. Having this innate sense of fearlessness with new ventures and then pairing it with personal development. One of the evenings that I was on my shift at head office, I decided to start a YouTube channel. I didn't really know how to do YouTube, like one thing that I did know was how to make videos, because I've been doing that since I was a child, since I was like 7. Didn't know how to do YouTube. I was a YouTube viewer from when I was like really young, but I'd always get really intimidated by other people's amount of subscribers. I would think to myself like, oh, I'll never get to like 10,000. I couldn't even imagine getting to 1,000, let alone 10,000, let alone 20,000. But that evening, I kind of just decided that I was gonna do it. When I'm into something, I get so consumed with it. I get really obsessed with learning how to get really good at it. So here I started my YouTube channel. I was applying the techniques which I was learning from the million videos that I was watching on YouTube. Like there are so many videos on YouTube teaching you how to do YouTube. So I would take the tips that were useful, the ones that weren't super useful, I just sort of like put them aside, and then I went with it full force. And I knew very well back then that starting a YouTube channel was going to be the step one for me building a lifestyle that I wanted. So back then, what I actually wanted to achieve was access to travel. I already knew by now that influencers, when they have true influence, you know, they have an engaged audience, a community, then they become they become like the channel. I mean, pardon the pun, but they become the medium for which companies like this, who wouldn't otherwise have access to, you know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, they become that channel where they can be seen. And so I just knew that because I had worked with influencers already. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. I really want access back into travel, and I'd love to be a travel vlogger. That's what I really wanted at the time. That was one of my main drivers, and I realized that in order to do that, I had to really display my expertise and experience in travel. Now the good news is I had 7 years of that experience, you know, like I had 7 years of the behind the scenes of travel. So I thought, man, I have all this knowledge that people need to actually know. So it's kind of a win-win. Like everything was already ingrained in me. I just knew that in the market, when it came to talking about travel and that sort of thing, there wasn't really anyone catering to that depth of like information just yet, and I wanted to be that person. I guess also being like purpose driven, always had an innate interest in people. For me, it just seemed like a win-win. Like I get to help myself, I get to help others, and I get to help businesses. This is where it gets interesting. There was 1 week that my channel grew 1,000 new subscribers every single day, and I was like, what's going on? I was already at 7,000 subscribers, and then for a week, it took me to about 14,000. Watching all of those videos and actually applying all of the steps was working. So I thought, now I know about Instagram, now I know about YouTube. Oh, and there's one more thing. When I was at my job, at headquarters of this airline, I discovered Snapchat, and I was snapping like every day. And every time Billy would come home, I'd be like, babe, look what I did in my day. Tick, 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 tick. Like I found so much joy in making Snapchat. And I found that, you know, from my YouTube channel, going back into my Snapchat, it was just like kind of growing, and I thought, I love sharing my day with others. I love things like sustainability. I really enjoy like healthy eating. I enjoy how I've taken my life from like one place to another place where I feel happy and I feel healthy. And my deep down intention was to start influencing others to kind of take, like, I really wanted people to start taking action on their own lives and the own decisions that they're making with regards to their activities, with the food, with the just conscious decisions to make life just better quality. I was really interested in that. So there was that, like, yeah, Instagram, YouTube, and then Snapchat. And one day Billy said to me, he goes, babe, you know, you need a job that you can like do this. And back then I was like, where is that job? What, like, does it exist? So this would have been around 2016. 2016, social media management wasn't really a huge thing. Social media managers, community managers, you know, content creators, these weren't common words. So I was kind of like, oh, I don't know. I'd been working at the airline for about a year, but I just wanted to do more. Every time it was quiet at work, I would spend all this time on the internet, like researching. To be honest with you, I was really interested in like on the internet, like how the internet works. So I'd spend all my time researching that, you know. Eventually I left the company and I opened an agency. Now you're probably thinking like, what? What's the agency? Is it the same thing? No, it's not. It was a social media marketing agency. Around 2017, was it 2017? Yeah, 2017. I went into partnership with this amazing girl, and she is now the director of Case Media. Went into partnership, created Case Media. The reason I went into agency was because I was thinking that that was going to make me a lot of money. It is a business type where if you know what you're doing and you know how to do sales and you know how to nurture your customers and you have a good internal like office system, it's actually such a great business model. But as we were like, you know, gaining more clients, I wasn't like super, how do I say, you know, like when you're getting more of what you want, you just get so pumped and like filled with life. Well, at the time, I was just neutral. Like, I was just happy that, you know, it was kind of working out and like new adventures. To be honest with you, my favorite part of that business was meeting Storm and like the dynamic that we had. We were like so in sync in so many levels, and then especially business. Towards the end of the year, I made like a vision board. Get this, like I've done vision boards in the past, I've done manifestation books in the past, and the reason I do them is to make sense of my desires. You know, like in real life, we kind of go, here are my goals. But sometimes you're like, are those my real goals, or are those goals based on logic? So I would do like a vision board because that kind of like takes logic out of the scheme of things. A vision board puts all of your passions, all of the things that you dream of visually. That's why I made this vision board, because I kind of felt a little bit like, I started questioning like, is this where I want to be? And then at the end of the year, I decided that it wasn't where I wanted to be. My assumption of what an agency was going to do for me was not in line with the reality of what it actually was. And so yeah, that caused me to kind of be like, okay, I think the agency is not for me. Storm and I parted ways. To this day, she's still my business bestie. She's still my confidant. That was a really, really tough part. Mind you, this was only 2016, so this is not that long ago. But because I was fearless in trying to understand what I wanted in life and how I could execute my innate skills, I ended up in an agency. And then I ended up out of the agency. Come January 2017, I had to reassess and kind of go, okay, well, who am I now? What do I do? And what do I have to offer to people? And I thought I can offer them my time. I'll provide an hourly rate where people can pay me so that I can answer and help them, you know, solve their problems. I started to realize over time that what was going to add value to my knowledge and my practice was actual, you know, written materials. So this is the part where, I mean, I've got to say this whole entire year, no part of it has been like a walk in the park or like super easy, but it really pushed me, like it pushed my persistence and my dedication towards my goal. And I found that in order for me to charge this amount of money for this kind of service, I need additional things which will just add such great value, that will just make my clients like love the service that I give them. I started creating written materials. Now, can you imagine what it's like when you are sitting in front of a white Word document and you're just like have all of this knowledge and all this practice, and you're like, here's the white Word document, like what do I put in there? I tried different methods to write out all of the things that I knew that was going to add value. In short, I turned some of the complex knowledge which I had around social media into simple, bite-sized, applicable things that people could actually be like, right, I'm at this stage, I can do this, I'm going to do it, and this is what's going to happen. But that took a lot of time. So in essence, even though I have like the time and the space, like, you know, some people might open a cafe as a business or a restaurant as a business, and their foundation work is actually building the building and putting its fit out. My big job was like, of course, selling my services, but the other thing was like building the foundations of that consulting business. To give you an idea, I started that in around February this year, and it's now November, and only now have I completed some of the major components of that business. And at the same time, I was meeting a lot of people. You know, if you follow me on Instagram stories, you might see that I go to meetings on a regular basis and I see clients on a regular basis. So I was building while I was doing that and keeping up YouTube. YouTube to me is like innate. Halfway through the year, I went to Bali and I did a lot of meditation. First of all, I didn't know how to meditate before that, but I just had this desire. I was just like, I want to meditate, and I really got into it. And so when I came back to Australia, I thought to myself, I need to level up now. Like, am I going to get an office, or like, what am I going to do? And I saw this workspace and it just looks so beautiful. My goal was to have a studio, like a studio space of my own. I thought a desk at a beautiful co-working space is a great place for me to take my business in the interim. It's great for meeting people. It's great community. And as a person who works on my own quite a lot, it's just a lot healthier, you know, to be in an environment where there are people that I can just build relationships with. I'm all about that. I'm all about like building relationships and surrounding yourself with like-minded people. How did I build the business to where it currently is, where it has clients? Well, I had a few different methods. So networking, I had a membership to a networking group which I would attend every Tuesday afternoon. Facebook, I did a bit of that, but so much of my business really came from creating new relationships and building them, and then providing a service and delivering to a level that people are happy with. I guess my business is quite a new age, 21st century type of business. I created it. Kind of sounds really weird when I say that, but it's true. It didn't exist, like this role didn't exist back then, but it's so relevant. Social media is something that all businesses are going to need to be using. They should be using it already as it is, because social media is the biggest competition that's going to take over traditional media. If you really think about your behaviors, you're watching YouTube right now, your attention is here, whereas this space is competing with whatever is currently on TV. There could be a morning show on right now, primetime television right now, but you are currently spending your time over here. That is the long story of how I got into social media marketing consulting. I hope it's been insightful. Now, keep an eye out for part 2, which explains why I got into this business. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do. See you in the next video. Bye!